We're in the midst of a huge transformation where our peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, she, her, and hers, and I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager here at AllVoices. Today, I'm really excited to welcome our next guest onto the show, Deb LaMere. She is the CHRO at Datasite. Deb, thank you so much for being here. If you want to share a little about yourself for our listeners, including your pronouns, and when you were younger, do you remember how you answered the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Thanks for having me today, Christina. I'm happy to share some, and I love that question. It's actually quite a fun question to answer. No, I have been CHRO at Datasite now for about 2.5 years, but have really been in the HR space for, oh my God, close to 20, and had a variety of jobs throughout the whole thing. I actually started in the healthcare industry, where I was, answering the HR service center phone calls, as well as moving up into a generalist and doing benefits, and then really moved into the high tech space. And I've spent really the last 10 to 12 years in high tech and supporting, all these transformational growths and journey that high tech has been a part of. So it's been super exciting. And what did I want to be when I grew up? Oh my God, there were so many things that I wanted to be, but I think I always knew I wanted to help people. I mean, it started with, I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher because it all began with kids. And then I wanted to be a pediatrician. And at one point when I was in college, it was that moment of, yeah, I really, really like doing this, but there's other ways I can help people too. And how I ended up in HR was, if I'm not going to be a doctor, I can hire the doctors. So no matter what, I can always impact patient care in some way or another. And I think at the end of the day, being in HR is helping others, helping people grow and learn and develop. And it's been an awesome, awesome journey in my career.
Awesome. I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of experience, and I'm sure that you're helping people a lot day to day in your role as CHRO, but I would love to ask, what would you say, what else defines you, Deb, as a person?
I do a lot of, friends, family, they absolutely define me too, but also I do a lot of nonprofit work then as well. I've spent years with an organization called Boulder Options, which helps at-risk youth. It's a youth mentoring organization, which brought me then into really Twin Cities in Motion, where I'm the board chair today. And it's again about getting running. We are responsible for the Twin Cities Marathon. And we're really working to get more community members to get in motion and start to move forward. So a lot of it is, family and friend defines me, but how I can also give back into the community in which I live.
Absolutely. I love that. I think it's so important to really be kind of a citizen of the community that you are a part of. And it sounds like, again, that common theme of helping people is shining through. I definitely want to ask, as kind of the leader of, the HR team as well at Datasite, what are kind of qualitative and quantitative ways you measure company culture internally?
Yeah, that's a great question. It starts with the employee engagement survey. And I would say, one of the things that what I like from an employee engagement survey standpoint is that it's the measurement of all things. And there's so many different components that go into an employee's engagement. And how do we make sure that employees are happy with what they're doing, that they're getting that ability to be able to, be the best, bring their best selves to work, that their managers are helping to remove barriers so they can be successful, that they're getting rewards and recognition. All these programs that we put together really culminate into what an employee engagement survey does, and and it really helps companies kind of tweak and redesign and what they want to do, because it's all about hearing from the employees. And we at the top can always say, oh, this sounds like an amazing idea, but
Right.
it really comes down to what's going to engage an employee, what's important to this employee. And that's where, from kind of a measurement standpoint, taking that, whether you have an annual large survey or you do monthly pulse checks, then to like an net promoter score, like an engagement net promoter, it gets you that kind of like pulse about what's happening with your employees, and kind of helps you retweak. Where do you go? What do you do? What are they looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. I heard you mention the word redesign, and I feel like over the past couple of years, a lot of things have had to have been redesigned. There's been a lot of changes, and employees are looking for kind of different things in terms of that engagement, as you were talking about, that grassroots approach. What does a holistic strategy for employee engagement look like at large on your team and at Datasite?
Mhm. I think when we take a look at the full strategy each year, We look at what the organizational goals are, because when I think about HR, it's how do we partner and support with the business? And so what's the organizational goals and strategy that we have each year? Last year at Datasite, we were all about thriving. How do we have our employees thrive in this environment? And this year, our new brand campaign will be, it's all about you. We're really excited about that, both internally and externally, about it's all about you. What do you want to do? And as we kind of move through the pandemic and we're shifting and refocusing on whether people are going to come back into the office to remain in this hybrid work environment, it really is all about you. What do you want to do? What do you want to experience? What are the next things that need to happen? So I think like that's where it comes down to, again, building out an HR strategy that helps to really support the business. Because at the end of the day, we want to be that partner that, again, allows employees to bring their best selves to work, be productive, be there, and again, really support our customer base, because that's what's super important.
Absolutely. Setting up kind of a workplace and a hybrid model as well that really empowers folks to thrive, do their best work, and feel like that work is being valued in terms of scaling and being in a hybrid kind of workspace. Sometimes it's hard to keep a pulse on what's happening. There could be things that pop up, especially as kind of new team members join as well. The organization gets bigger. I want to ask how you identify these quote unquote kind of hidden dangers that don't help employees or team members really thrive in terms of maybe like misaligned or misunderstanding goals or values or toxic managers, and how do you proactively find them and empower employees to really speak up and really live that company culture?
Yeah, it's a great question. What I always say is that it begins with communication.
Mhm.
And, even prior to the pandemic, when you had virtual and remote teams, and even now it's an even bigger piece about how do you keep people connected? And that's been the biggest thing during the pandemic. How do you keep employees connected? And it begins with communication. And it's, managers having that constant touch point with their employees, using different types of tools and technology to connect teams together to collaborate. There's a great example within our product team. Our product team has always believed we got to be in person. We need to collaborate together. And at the end of the day, when we all had to pivot and go home, the product team was able to still come together, collaborate, and release new products. So it's that piece of the constant communication that's there, making sure that people feel connected at
Right.
certain points, and it's having those conversations. One of the other pieces we added was, even in our performance reviews, we've added this question about well-being. We should be asking it all the time. How you doing? How you feeling? But we've made it kind of the standard part of our new performance review process, just in terms of checking in with your employees, because it's, again, it's that caring, it's that communication and understanding how your employees are doing so they can bring their best selves to work.
Operationalize asking about well-being is so important. That's a major change that I've seen over the past 3 years too, is asking how someone is really doing and asking again and making sure you are having that two-way conversation.
Mhm.
I know that you mentioned kind of the managers and like communication too. You might not be talking with the CHRO every day or your
Right.
CEO, but you're talking to their manager pretty frequently. Um,
Mhm.
and I want to know, kind of in an ideal world, what would be the path from someone who is an individual contributor
Mhm.
to a people manager, because it is very different roles, responsibilities. What would
Yes.
that look like? How do you best prepare folks to manage, motivate, and effectively communicate with the team?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things that you do that, everybody has their own path that they want to choose. There's some people who are super happy being individual contributors, but then there are those who really do want to move into that management. And it again starts with communication and conversations, that managers and employees should have a two-way conversation about what their career plans are and where they want to go. And for those who really express a desire to move into that kind of next step, I want to be in management. What does that mean? And I think here at Datasite, we're doing a number of things that are trying to bring that in. This year, we're going to launch a top talent program. The top talent program not only will be for individual contributors, but for those who want to move into manager ranks, really kind of giving them that manager 101. As we bring managers on, we just launched in this last year something called Manager Essentials, and that's that manager 101. How do you have effective crucial conversations with your employees. And it's not just putting someone on a performance plan. It's about talking about their goals. It's about talking about performance, their well-being, their careers, all of those things that really kind of come together. And it starts with those crucial conversations. So our management 101 has that. But then the other big principle that really comes out of understanding, and being a good manager is also having that reward and recognition. What does it mean to reward and recognize other people? And there's a couple of ways that we're able to do that, not only through taking manager essentials, but we also have a recognition platform that, employees get to do peer-to-peer recognition, and eventually managers do as well. But it's an opportunity then to continue to learn, how do you recognize people? How do they like to be recognized? So when I come back to it, it's, this manager 101 is so important. And then having some mentors and sponsors within the organization then too.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that question of how do you like to be recognized, because not everybody likes to be recognized, and in all hands, not everyone likes to be recognized, one-on-one. So it's different for everybody, and understanding that people's different career goals and aspirations are different as well. Are there any other ways that kind of managers can show that they are really authentically invested in the professional development of their team and meet them where they are?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to listening. It's the communication, the listening, and that's where I always believe too. So you're communicating well, but it also means listen to your employee. How do they want to be recognized? What are they looking for? Are there ways that, are there barriers to their success? And how can you as that manager help them? So that critical listening is so important when you're a manager. Let the employee get it out. Let them share what they need to share. And then, have those constant communications of, okay, the employee shared this. Let me follow up with this person a week later. How's it going? What's going on? So that's a really crucial piece to have.
Absolutely. Following up and not just having a one and done conversation.
Exactly.
Goes beyond those lanes. How do you kind of think about leaders across the organization, really empowering them to practice that equity-driven leadership, making sure they're thinking about equity in the different processes that they touch, whether they're in product, marketing, on the HR team, on the sales team? How do you kind of empower folks to do that?
Yeah, it really, to empower managers to really have, that equity leadership amongst all of it is just, again, it starts with the manager 101 and those crucial conversations that you're going to have that, everybody, no matter, what gender, age group, whatever it is, you're always interested in career development. And so I'm going to take that for a great example. Like, I'll never forget, there was once I was on a panel and it had some great tech companies that were on it. We were out in San Francisco, and a lot of the people on the panel were really talking about how millennials want this and they want that. And someone stood up and had said, well, I'm not a millennial, but I'd really like to, have my career development is important to me too. And so that's where it kind of had a few members of the panel sit back and go, oh, well, wait a minute. And that's where, I stood up and said, well, no matter what the career conversations are, it shouldn't matter where you are at any stage of your career. We as managers should be out there talking to our employees. What do you want? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go next? And how can I help empower you and be successful in your career and bring your best self to work?
Yeah, absolutely. And with those career conversations and having these kind of discussions with your manager, sometimes it can be hard to figure out where you want to go, and you have questions. And I know me personally, mentors have been something that's really important to just my career development. And will continue to be. And I think the role of mentors is important. From your kind of perspective, what does an impactful mentorship program look like in practice? If you have any examples at Datasite, or just your experience as a mentor to many too.
Sure. We're actually working on rolling out a mentorship program here at Datasite. But just kind of in the past, there's two different kinds of mentorship, really. There's that formal mentorship, and then there's that informal piece. I also believe from a mentor standpoint too, what do you want out of that mentor?
Right.
That, it's what's that relationship you're going to have? There's been times where I've been part of programs where you just get a mentor, but that person doesn't know how to access or really use that mentor or know what they want to use that person for. But I think there's just other ways to come back and really, when you're going to go into a mentorship program, it's again, both what's the employee's responsibility responsibility, or the mentee's responsibility, and the mentor's responsibility. Like, how do you come together and build a relationship? Because there's a lot of times as well that you're in that mentoring relationship and it becomes a reverse mentorship as well.
Yeah.
And you can learn things from both one another. So I think, I've had some phenomenal mentors in my career, and who have really led me to where I am today. I mean, there was one who I was making a decision: do I stay in healthcare, or do I take this awesome opportunity that's in high tech? And I just remember this individual saying to me, if you don't take the job, I'm going to. So it was okay. It's like, it's not that I don't love you, and it's not that I don't want you to still work here, but in order for you to get that next level of experience, to go where you need to go, you need to take that next step forward. And it's just, there's so many mentors that have, both formally and informally, that really have influenced my career, that it's so important. Mentoring is so important, and it helps you get to that next step. And you might not need a mentor every day, but there's just those different points in your career where a mentor is so, so important.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be the last piece too, in terms of why I've been so heavily involved in just mentoring outside of just my everyday working life. Because again, at no matter what stage you are in your life, having that mentor, that's someone to take you to that path that you never thought you could get to or be a part of, is just really a very empowering and amazing experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think mentorship is really important. Also, it could be a peer mentor, like upward mentorship, as you were talking about, reverse as well, and just learning from one another. But again, like any other relationship, as you were talking about too, setting up those clear expectations, what you're trying to learn, what kind of relationship that's going to be. But I think mentor is, to your point, really important part of your support system, especially in your kind of career. We talked about this a little bit in terms of kind of new programs and innovations in the people and human resources space, which is great. Business as usual, definitely not what a lot of people are doing right now. Can you tell me about kind of a system you've redesigned over the past 2 or 3 now years? It's going to be a process, policy, or initiative to be more equitable, or an innovation data site that you are just really excited by?
Yeah, there's two things really. The recognition program is huge for us.
Yeah.
That as we moved into this virtual world, it was so easy in offices to go buy someone a Diet Coke and say, hey, thank you for helping me out today.
Yeah.
Now it's, oh my gosh, you helped me out. How do I recognize you? So we took that next step of bringing on a platform called Bonusly. And Bonusly allows that peer-to-peer recognition, but also recognition between managers and employees and as well. At this point, managers can award points to employees along with that recognition. So again, that employee can then say, oh, thanks for my points, I'm going to get a Starbucks gift certificate, or
Yeah.
I love to shop, so I'm going to go do that. So again, it's, providing those points so an employee can really do what they want to, but it's great because there's a whole news feed. The entire company can see it. You can comment on it. It's kind of like, anything you see with social media where you can like a comment, you can add a comment. But it's really great to see what happens in the organization. And it not only just connects functions, it connects everybody globally. So if I'm on the sales team, I can, recognize someone on the services team for doing an amazing job. And I might be in the United States and that person might be in the United Kingdom. So again, it's connecting not only functions, but also geography then as well, and bringing it across. So that was one amazing program that we brought to the forefront during the pandemic.
I think that relates to also personalization at scale. Someone might want to use their points to do a Starbucks gift card. Someone else might want to do something else. And that global element of just connecting the team, those meaningful moments of connection in a hybrid environment as well. I think that's a good example.
Exactly. Yeah.
Deb, is there anything that I either didn't ask that you want to share with folks, or maybe, I know we talked a lot about active listening, the importance of career development, mentorship, like 1 to 2 key insights you hope listeners bring with them after hearing our conversation on reimagining company culture this afternoon? Always like to ask.
Yeah, no, I think a couple of pieces behind it is that the pandemic really forced us to look at ways to engage people differently. That, we're able to really take a look at how do we retain our employees. We've talked about the Great Resignation. You hear that all the time.
Yeah.
But, if if somebody is engaged in what they're doing and we've gotten the tools and the resources that are there and managers are connecting with their employees, again, it's wanting to be part of a culture that you're going to be engaged in a part of. And I think that's a really important piece to think about, is that no matter what, in whatever we end up with in a full virtual world or hybrid, it's about the connection and bringing people together and continuing to engage them in different ways. I think the other piece too is just, again, yeah, we've talked about career development and recognition, and it's so important for managers, once again, to kind of have all these tools in their toolbox, to have this manager 101 of how do
Yeah.
I recognize my employees? How do I help them bring them their best selves to work? But then on the reverse to that, employees, it's okay to have the conversation with your managers. If you've got an open communication and environment, then share with your managers how you're doing from a well-being perspective. What do you want to do next? So it's just, again, that open lines of active listening, critical conversations, and all those things then too.
Absolutely. Those conversations are important, continuing to have them, asking those big questions as you were talking about too, to meet employees where they are and make sure they feel heard, seen, understood, and they feel like their work is valued at the organization. I think that definitely makes sense. Deb,
Mhm.
thank you so much for being on Reimagining Company Culture this afternoon. It was so nice to meet you.
Yes, great to meet you. Thanks for having me, Christina.
Of course. And as a reminder for folks who are listening at AllVoices, we really believe in the employee feedback management as a requirement for the organization to succeed overall. Have a great rest of your afternoon, everyone.